Searching the web for the most talented, creative, and intriguing independent authors.
The Emit Blackwell Show, diving into the creative minds of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and paranormal authors. Their fantasy is our reality. Hello and welcome again to the Emit Blackwell Show. I would like to thank you all for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. It really helps get the author's name out there. On this episode, we will be speaking with fantasy author Vashti Quiroz Vega on her Fantasy Angels series with a focus on the first part of her epic saga, The Fall of Lilith. We discuss her inspirations, how she builds her worlds, and the strength of a complex female protagonist who is more than just a pretty face. We will also quiz her on her fantasy knowledge at the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. And so, without any further ado, let's begin. In The Fall of Lilith, Vashti Quiroz Vega crafts an irresistible new take on heaven and hell that boldly lays bare the passionate, conflicted natures of God's first creations, the resplendent celestial beings known as angels. If you think you know their story, think again. Endowed with every gift of mind, body, and spirit, the angels reside in a paradise bounded by divine laws, chief of which are obedience to God and celibacy. In all other things, the angels possess free will, that they may add in their own unique ways to God's unfolding plan. Lilith, most exquisite of angels, finds the rules arbitrary and stifling. She yearns to follow no plan but her own, a plan that leads to the throne now occupied by God himself. With clever words and forbidden caresses, Lilith sows discontent among the angels. Soon the virus of rebellion has spread to the greatest of them all, Lucifer. Now, as angel is pitted against angel, old loyalties are betrayed and friendships broken. Lust, envy, pride, and ambition arise to shake the foundations of heaven and beyond. For what begins as a war in paradise invades God's newest creation, a planet known as Earth. It is there, in the garden called Eden, that Lilith, Lucifer, and the other rebel angels will seek a final desperate victory, or a venomous revenge. Get your copy of The Fall of Lilith by Vashti Quiroz Vega at Amazon.com. All right, and we are back, and I am here with the author Vashti Quiroz Vega. Vashti, is that how you say your name?
Yes, it is. You pronounced it correctly.
Oh, yay.
Thank you for having me in it.
Yes, well, thank you very much for being here on this show. I do appreciate you being here. And we're going to talk about, well, you have two books right now. The first one is The Fall of Lilith, and the other one is called The Basement, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I have a question here for you. When did you first discover that you even liked writing stories?
Since I was a child, I have always enjoyed writing and telling stories. I remember gluing pages together like a book in 4th and 5th grades, drawing pictures and writing stories like a comic book, and then selling them to my friends.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is very cool. So, like, now in the book, The Fall of Lilith, you incorporate a lot of lore, okay, into your book. And did you find it interesting to write the untold story of angels?
Very much. I grew up in a religious home, attended religious private school, and went to church regularly. I became fascinated with the idea of celestial beings. But other than reading about certain tasks they carried out, there really wasn't much written in the Bible about them. Mm-hmm. So in my quest to find out everything there was to know about angels, I read many religious books, including Jewish scriptures and books and stories related to it, and books of other religions as well. And also, growing up, I developed a love for world mythology, folklore, fairy tales. So The Fall of Lilith and really all the books in the Fantasy Angel series are stemmed from all of these.
Yeah, and that it's just a cool idea to see that story of what's going on in heaven, you know, before man kind of really got into the whole mix of things. And I mean, so as far as your reading cycles go, who has inspired you as an author?
I would have to say it began with Stephen King.
Yeah, that's another one.
Seriously.
I have to stop you here for a second.
Yeah.
Stephen King has been mentioned more on this show than just about any author. And if you're out there, yeah, he is the king. And Stephen, if you're out there and you're listening, which I'm not sure if you are or not, the doors are always open if you want to be on the show. You have inspired so many people. So anyhow, we'll get back to your authors that you read on a regular basis, Vashti. What do you read or who do you get inspired by?
There's been so many authors who've inspired me through the years. Recently, I love George R.R. Martin.
Mm-hmm.
I love his style. He's broken every rule there is in writing, but he's still successful. He does his own thing, and it works for him, and I wish I could do that.
Well, you got a good start. You really do. And we're very excited to, because when I was kind of reading through this book, I was just surprised at the amount of backstory that you have going on with these characters. So, and speaking of characters, your character Lilith is basically fed up with God's rules and starts a sort of revolt in heaven that leads all the way to Lucifer himself. The story plays out like an epic fantasy drama. Now, what did you like the most about writing this story?
Well, first, Lilith didn't start a sort of revolt in heaven. Lilith caused a rebellion that led to an all-out war in heaven.
Oh, boy.
She influenced Lucifer, who was God's right hand at the time, to lead a war between rebel angels and holy angels, which caused a third of the angels to be cast out of heaven. As far as what I like most, I enjoyed writing about the origins of the angels
mm-hmm.
and other supernatural beings that were mentioned in the story. I enjoyed developing the characters, and I loved building worlds, like the 3 levels of heaven, the kingdom of Koken, the kingdom of Og, the Garden of Eden, primitive Earth, among others. I love that.
Man, and that's the coolest thing is, and this is, leads me right to my next question. You have a female lead who influences Lucifer. So it's almost as if she's kind of the inner workings behind this whole Fall of the Angels, which is so interesting. It gives me chills just thinking about it, because if you want to take a strong female lead, a strong female protagonist, this is one, right? Wow, she can do just about anything. Now, your main character is a very strong female, and she uses, pardon the pun, what God gave her to seduce her way into the hearts of anyone she wishes. Right? She is dynamic, well-written, with all the motivations that any woman in her position would have. Now, do you believe a strong woman female protagonist is in some ways more dynamic and crafty than just an average male lead?
Well, thank you for the compliment. And I must say that Lilith is far more than just a pretty face.
Mm-hmm.
Lilith was one of the most intelligent angels in heaven. She was intuitive. She had natural psychology. It would have taken much more than a pretty face to influence God's number one angel to revolt against him. She simply used everything in her arsenal to get what she wanted. I set out to write a unique story, and that included a female protagonist who was also a villain. But that being said, I believe there are very dynamic and crafty male characters out there. Loki comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's another thing, too, with the whole concept of this female protagonist. Even though she is the protagonist, she still is very evil. And it's almost like it's the motivations that drive your characters. It's not necessarily like they fit into this cookie-cutter system of, here's a protagonist, they're always a hero. You've basically taken somebody who's on the opposite side of the fence and turned them into the protagonist of the story just based on their motivations of why they're doing this.
And that was the idea,
mm-hmm.
To have a villain as a protagonist, and for that protagonist to be a woman.
Yeah, and you did a very good job.
You can't get more unique than that.
Yeah, you did a very good job on that. Now, you build you build each character. It's not like you just focus on Lilith, but you build each character with their own attributes, their own personalities, their own backstories, and then you give them each a voice, and you add this underlying want for freedom in heaven, right? Now, where did you draw inspiration for some of your characters? Was it like driven by their motivations, or did you see things in folklore and mythology that you kind of drew character motivations from?
Well, yeah, character motivation comes from like everywhere. This may sound weird. I'm a people watcher. I enjoy sitting around, observing people. I watch the way they walk, talk, sit, their smile, their laugh, hand gestures, quirks. I also pay attention to features, hair, body types, that kind of thing. These observations help me develop a generalized description of my characters. But then something magical happens. My characters take over. And at some point, they begin to tell their own stories. So I just follow their lead.
Yeah, and we've heard that so much from other authors, too, is that they do have their own stories. Do you find it difficult to manage all those people inside your own mind?
It was challenging at first, but then we all became friends. And as I got to know them better, it became easy.
Yeah, and it's so interesting too to people watch. I love people watching. It's so cool because people don't realize how much of their character they display in just body language. How much of who they are is in the clothes they wear or the way they wear their hair up. And I don't want to say that I try to make judgments about people as they're as I'm people watching, but it is fun. Because you could almost make up stories about each and every individual person who walks by, even though it may not be their story. You can just take some assumptions and be like, I bet that person, if there were a character in my book, would do this. That is very interesting. I thought I was alone with the people watching thing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and
you got a fellow weirdo right here.
Yeah, and hopefully, like if you're people watching and there's somebody else who's out there at the same Barnes & Noble you're at, and is people watching you never know.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. So now, although each character is a piece of yourself in some way or another, who do you most identify with in the book?
I don't believe every character is a piece of me. However, I may be in denial. Don't know. I identify mostly with Gadriel.
Tell us a little bit about that character.
Well, she starts off as a kind of weak, insecure people pleaser, like I was once upon a time. But throughout the story, she develops into a much more confident and stronger character. I also identify with her immense love of animals and nature.
So another nature lover. I tell you, I live up here in Michigan, right? And out of all the places in the world, even with the harsh winters and the really erratic weather, I still love this state based on just the nature that we have around us. So we have so many different types of animals, and the fall colors are just now starting, and it's like I love being outside. So that is amazing that you identify with somebody who is a nature lover, which is great.
Oh, yeah.
Now, do you plan on making a sequel for the first book there?
Oh, yes. The Fall of Lilith is the first book in my Fantasy Angel series. The second book in the series, Son of the Serpent, will be out soon. Although these books are part of a series, each book stands alone. But of course, it's more fun when you read one after the other.
Yeah. And that's another thing, too. I mean, the book jumps around on different views and adds small portions of subplots with each character, right? When you were writing this book, did you have the sequels in mind?
Not at first, but somewhere near the middle, certain characters begged for their own stories to be told. Mm-hmm. So each book after The Fall of Lilith will be about an individual character from book one.
Oh, that's a very smart way to kind of lay the foundation of your world. It really is a good idea. Now, you've published another book. It's called The Basement. Tell us a little bit about that story. Okay.
The Basement is my very first book. I wrote it about 9 years ago. It's a suspense thriller about an 11-year-old boy named Robbie. I wrote it for a preteen, early teen audience, but many adults have read it and enjoyed it as well. But since it's been so long since I wrote it, and I've learned so much and have grown as a writer, I'm planning on writing a second edition of The Basement to make it the very best it can be.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon for an author to do. I mean, 9 years of learning, 9 years of writing and coming up with your own style is really, authors have done it where they go back and make second, third, fourth, fifth editions just based on the way that they've changed over the years. And I commend you for that. That's a really good idea.
Thank you.
So now, where can people find your books? Do you have a release date for the sequel?
The Fall of Lilith is available now. You can purchase an ebook or paperback on Amazon. The second book in my Fantasy Angel series, Son of the Serpent, will be out end of September, early October, somewhere around there. As soon as I get a release date, I will be announcing it on my blog, and I'll share it on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, etc.
And what's the name of your blog again?
The Writer Next Door, Vashti Q.
Okay, and now, the next portion of the interview, Vashti. We have a game here prepared for you. And because you are somebody who has such a great love for fantasy, all right?
Oh, God.
We have a fantasy quiz. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you 3 clues, okay? And you're going to have to guess who I'm speaking about. It's going to be a character, and I'm not limiting this just to fantasy books, okay? I'm also expanding this to fantasy movies and possibly TV shows, okay? So are you ready to start?
No, but go ahead.
All right, here we go. All right. The first 3 clues. Hairy toes, short, ring.
Bilbo Baggins.
Correct. The next one. Umbrella, singing, bottomless bag.
Mary Poppins.
Yes, correct. 2 for 2. And here's the next one. Lamp, wishes, servant.
Aladdin.
Yes, correct. And here's the next one. Vampires, teenager, slayer.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes, very correct. I love that show back in the 90s. Sitting around eating Slim Jims and Pringles and drinking Mountain Dew, watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So the next one. Dwarf, magician, and protects child.
Oh, boy. I can't think of his name.
Okay. Willow of Good from the movie Willow, which is
there you go.
Yeah, pretty far back. Okay, so the next one. Long, furry, dragon.
The purplish creature from Neverending Story.
You're very close. Yes, very close. His name is Falcor. I'll give you the point for that. You received 14 points for that. I'm not sure what these points are for, but I've got a whole room full of them, so we're just going to give them away.
I'll take them.
The next one. Warrior, leather, battle yell. This is a female.
Okay. Xena.
Yes, Xena, the warrior princess. Very good. The next one. Deceptive sister, magic, lore. And this comes from the Arthurian storylines.
Arthur's sister. I don't know her name. King Arthur's sister.
No, it's very close. Yes, I'll give you the 50,000 points for this one. It is Morgan Le Fay. I'm not sure.
Wow, 50,000
I know. I don't know how that question has 50,000.
I'm rich in points.
I know you are. Hopefully you have somewhere to put all these points, because I don't know where you're going to put them. But anyhow, the next one is mustache, long hair, and this is a man, with the quote, "You killed my father. Prepare to die."
Okay, let me think on this a minute. I was going to say Zorro, but that's not it.
He's very close, very close. He's like Zorro without the mask. And the answer for this one is Inigo Montoya. Okay, so he would normally say, "My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." And he says that like 50,000 times in the movie Princess Bride. So the next one. Silvery blonde braids or hair, purple eyes, dragon. This is a female character.
Daenerys Stormborn.
Yes, correct. From the Game of Thrones series. And here we
From
go.
the Game of Thrones.
Yeah. So here we go for the next one. Bushy beard, giant, motorcycle.
Okay.
Okay, we
I
can.
have no clue.
All right, it is Hagrid from Harry Potter. And here's what
Oh,
we're going to
yeah,
do.
yeah.
I have one more bonus question. You could completely clean the entire slate and take this game home with 20,968,426.6 points.
Wow.
I think maybe you could get it. So here we go. Here is the bonus question. 3 clues. Blue box, sonic screwdriver, and time travel. This one merges between fantasy and sci-fi quite often. It's a TV show in Britain.
Doctor Who.
Wow. Very good. Very good. You have won the game with, I can't remember what I just said. I'll probably have to go back and check it. But it's like 50 billion, quadrillion, thousand points. And I'm not sure what you're going to do with all these points. You can take these points to Jamaica. We won't pay for you to go to Jamaica, but you can take them there. You can take them to Australia as well. You can take them pretty much all over the world. They just won't be able to be used for anything. So thank you very much for playing this game. And Vashti, thank you so much for being here on the show. And just a reminder, everybody out there, if you want to go to Amazon.com, check out The Fall of Lilith and The Basement. They're both amazing stories. And Vashti, thank you so much for being here on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Emit. It was so much fun.
I hope so. Anyhow, thank you so much. And this is Emit Blackwell signing out. Keep on reading and keep on writing, my friends.
Searching the web for the most talented, creative, and intriguing independent authors.
The Emit Blackwell Show, diving into the creative minds of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and paranormal authors. Their fantasy is our reality.